Edward Brown, host of The Best of Investing, here to remind you to tune in this week on Saturday at 8 p.m. Our guest is going to be Charles Carrillo. You're not going to want to miss this show. That's The Best of Investing on Saturday at 8 p.m. Welcome. You're listening to The Best of Investing. I'm your host, Edward Brown. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Use that number to answer the trivia questions for a 5-pack tanning certificate given away during this show. That certificate is not sponsored by the radio station, but by Tan Bella Tanning Salon with 2 locations in San Francisco and 1 in Marin County. Today's trivia theme is baseball, since we just started baseball season. Now, today we do have a special guest, Lucille Maddalena of MTM Coach. And today's episode is called Invest in Your Career. You have the skills to lead. I'll give a little introduction here. Dr. Maddalena holds an interdisciplinary doctorate, which she'll have to explain what that means, in labor education and human communication. She is an executive coach owner of MTM Coach, providing tailored coaching to talented executives in transition. Lucille, welcome to The Best of Investing. Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay? Or did you, it looks like you're, you got kind of frozen there. So somehow we'll have to get you on in just a minute here. While you're trying to get linked in, what we're going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on at Scottsdale Mortgage Investments and Pacific Private Money. Right now, Scottsdale Mortgage Investments is got a trade desk where you can invest in mortgages. And Lucille,
yes,
are you with us
we
again?
have some storming going on here, so the internet was down for a bit. Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, that happens quite a bit here. So, first of all, why did you write a book called "Moving On" by harnessing my sled dog team's instinct to win?
Long title, a little confusing. Absolutely, could not get it.
Yep.
The book is written for my clients, and these are some very successful business people. It's not for them; it's for them to develop the people who report to them. Because you want to leave a great legacy behind. If you want to leave a legacy behind, that means you leave good people behind. So my job is to help him and her figure out how to develop those people so they've got a good team, so they fill the bench with people they're proud of. That was the goal.
Very cool. You know, I said in the introduction that you have an interdisciplinary doctorate. What does that mean?
I have 2 degrees. One wasn't enough. I went into labor education, labor studies, got a lot of experience with unions and working with people in the job, traveling around the country. And I found out something because of the field you're in. If they can't communicate with each other, they're not going to get along well. They're not going to succeed. So I got a second degree in human communications. The 2 of them together are really what's needed. You've got to be able to talk to people.
Yeah. In fact, it's interesting. I was just reading, I think someone sent me something on like an Instagram thing about how it is so important for employees, their stress level based on their communication with their boss. And, I mean, obviously, getting a decent paycheck is important, but more than money, there's this interaction with the higher ups that, can really kind of add to your life or take away from it.
Loneliness is a big issue on the job. The government has issued a big statement trying to alleviate some of the loneliness. And, it's interesting when people start their first job or the first few jobs earlier in their career, they sort of shy away from exposing themselves. They're insecure. But it gets to that point when you finally start connecting, especially with your boss, that you do better because then you're really answering, you're really involved, you're really committed. So relationship.
Well, this work, this remote work too, that's got to add to the loneliness because, there's only so much you can do on Zoom versus seeing people in person.
I don't know,
right?
Because the productivity is higher on when you're working remotely. So, and there's more connection with others. So that's a really good question. I'd love to do a little research into that one.
Okay. Yeah, because I know definitely there's some people who can be really productive, but that's only one part of the job, right? I mean, you don't want people to be unhappy, because if they're unhappy, then they're going to leave. And then, the turnover part has really got to be quite nasty. And, when you have a lot of turnover, like I have an assistant, she's been with us for well over 30
Wow.
years.
Are you
And, I think it's just because, we get along, and, I give her a lot of autonomy. I trust her. And so, she feels there's a lot of purpose in her work. So we're going to cut to our first commercial break here. We're going to ask a trivia question. And before we actually, let's ask the trivia question, and then I'm going to go back and make a couple of mentions here. So our first trivia question, it's at baseball. And again, Lucille, if you know the answer, don't say anything yet. What batting average is considered the Mendoza line? That's our trivia question. Call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Want to make a mention here for Palio Restaurant, one of the best restaurants in San Francisco, voted by San Franciscans. So it's got to be good. I've been there before. The food's phenomenal. Palio, Palio restaurant in San Francisco. Again, our trivia question in baseball. What batting average is the Mendoza line? Stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. Don't touch that dial. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Lucille Maddalena. And our first trivia question on baseball: what batting average is considered the Mendoza line? And Lucille, I don't know how much you know about baseball, but
I don't
what's
have the answer
to
to that one. I've heard it before. Someone
Don't have
talked
the
about it,
answer.
but I don't recall it.
Okay,
What?
200. That's a pretty low batting average. So yeah, I guess I can't remember, there was a baseball player, last name must have been Mendoza. And so they came up with the Mendoza line. Hopefully he was a good defensive player at least. So we are on the Zoom studio here with Lucille Maddalena, who is MTM coach. What does
My
MTM
last name
stand
is
for?
Maddalena, so it's Maddalena Transitions Management. And
Oh, okay. Okay, now this whole thing about dog sledding, were you
I
a
was,
musher?
but only for about 6 years
Huh.
before children. When we were first married for the first
Okay.
few years, 6-10 years, we decided we'd get dogs as pets. Unfortunately, we got a few too many to be able to walk them. So we were actually being pulled by them. And we figured out if we put a sled behind them, they can go as fast as they want, and we don't have to keep up to them. They'll move us along.
No, this is kind of a silly question. Maybe were you living in
No,
Alaska?
Pennsylvania. Yeah, northern Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania.
Where?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Okay, but it still gets a lot of snow there.
Yeah,
So
and New York State,
yeah, well, it depends on what
upper New
part of
Jersey, the
Pennsylvania,
whole
but
area
yeah.
really gets hit. Well, it used to get hit.
Yeah.
The weather's changed a bit, but still Pennsylvania gets hit very
Sure.
hard. It's not surprising to get many feet of snow. So
Yeah, no, okay. So the idea is, rather than just have these dogs off leash, or if you just hold them, they might pull you in all directions. A sled is heavy enough.
Sled isn't
where
heavy.
they-
The sled is 20 pounds. I can lift the sled with
No,
one finger.
okay.
The idea is to train them, to make them a team, so get them to work together. So using some of those skills I was learning with people, with dogs, it's much more obvious because you're working with instinct then. And they respond to each other.
Okay.
And we worked out which dog worked best in what position on the team. And you build them into a team, and they want to do this. Now, we would drive into the area where we'd race, and they'd all be in the dog truck, and we'd put the sled out first in the line for them to get on. We take them out of the truck, put them on the ground. They'd run to their spot and wait impatiently for us to hook them up so they could run.
So now you just have to get lassos big enough to throw
That
around
would be
people,
a good idea.
right?
Very creative.
And quick, get in your spot, and they all just run to their spot, right? So how did that work with people? So how do you? I mean, I get the idea of working together as a team, but how do you
Think
harness
about
that?
it. First of all, like you said, put a harness around a person, put a rope around a person, because you're trying to figure out where they are most comfortable, and their office, their location, the teams they're working with, the people they're working with. you find out what
Hmm.
people will excel in and who the work is best. It's the
Yeah.
same as working with the dogs. The dogs are a little more instinctual and they're not going to give you much feedback other than they're hungry. With people, they'll tell you.
Yeah.
And the more you listen, and you learn more to listen when you're with animals because it's nonverbal.
You know that's a good point because I was just thinking about somebody I know who is very smart uh, and very good with Excel spreadsheets, let's say, good analytics. But the person is probably best suited for sales because of the personality, and that's probably likes that would like that better rather than just sitting behind a desk, just cranking out
That's a
numbers.
wonderful
Um,
observation. That's
yeah,
exactly what I think we all have
yeah,
to do, and that's what I wrote this for my people I coach to help their people move up. And sometimes they're not going to move up where it's expected, and we all have to figure out where do we want to go.
yeah.
Life is short. Do we want to be a job we don't want to
Oh
enjoy?
yeah. I know. I've talked to my kids about that, and when I got my first job in the right out of college in 1981, it was all the 80s was all about the greed, the money, that sort of thing, and now the kids coming out of school, they're a lot more into their environment, trying to do good for the planet, which I admire, and so like you're right, life is too short to just making money's great, but that's not what it's all about. You don't want you to be unhappy. So do you have a like a form people fill out? Is that, I mean, I mean, I don't know.
How
How
do
do
I
you
do
do
that?
your
Well, I do
coaching with
it. I
people?
give each person before we begin the coaching assignment um, a very thorough assessment. It's 4 parts. It takes them a couple of hours to do it. They do it all online, and then we take it down and we debrief it and go through each element and find out what that person wants to do, what they're good at doing, and where they want to their skills to bring them. Um, we help them understand who they are. We uh,
Yeah. So it's almost like
well,
executive
I am an
coaching in a
executive
way,
coach.
to some degree. Yeah. Okay. I was going to say because you hear that a lot, but it's very interesting what you're saying there. I tell you what, let's go to our second commercial break here. We're talking baseball as our trivia question. Who was the youngest player to win an MVP award? And we'll say that it's not within the last 10 years. So if there's someone who's been younger, like Bryce Harper, who may have won it when he was younger, we're not going to count him. We're going to have to, let's say, go back before the year 2000. And before the year 2000, who was the youngest baseball player to win an MVP award? Who was it? All right, call 888-912-1190. First caller with correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Also want to make a mention here for Transcendence Theater. Check out their upcoming performances, bestnightever.org. I've been to a number of performances. It's just like Broadway, phenomenal. Bestnightever.org. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. Edward Brown here, along with Lucille Maddalena, and our second trivia question on baseball. Who was the youngest player to win an MVP award?
Not a guess.
Lucille? I don't know what you know about baseball, but I'm sure you'll know the name if you don't know the answer, though. The answer is
Huh.
Vita Blue. And I have a national sports show that I do as well as this show. And we've interviewed him a couple of times and met him in person. I mean, unfortunately, he passed on this last year, but absolute pleasure. Just what a real sweetheart of a guy. Definitely will be missed, Vita Blue. Want to make another mention here also for Diversified Mortgage Expo. Check them out. They have a Note Expo in Tennessee coming up May 31st and June 1st. I plan on attending, and anybody who wants to meet me, I'll be glad to say hello. That'll be in Tennessee, in Nashville. Check out Diversified Mortgage Expo. All right, so Lucille Maddalena, how do you, okay, you're an MTM coach. I mean, well, that's the name of your company. So it's it's career
Well,
coaching. Is that a fair?
yeah, it's executive coaching because I'm a doctorate in labor education, human communications, and that field really embraces people who are pushing themselves, who want to excel. So that they're usually leaders in the companies. Um, and I think it's exciting to see where you can get, where you want to end up. You know, as you were talked about before, you've got to find the right field and let yourself drive to that goal.
All right, so let's get into this. Okay, so the relationship between the dog team, because we were doing dog sledding before, and teamwork. Why did you use the dog sled team as analogies for leadership? I guess we kind of answered that a little bit in the last segment. We're trying to figure out where somebody belongs
right.
on that team. But now, so you have this book, Case Studies in Leadership. How do people ready to move up in their career use these stories to help themselves?
We like storytelling, don't we? I bet you tell great stories.
I've been known to tell a few, yeah.
And you know, when we're listening to a great story by a great storyteller, we sort of feel that role. We feel what that person that we're talking about feels, and you learn a little bit. You experience a bit about what that person went through, and that broadens our knowledge, broadens our understanding of situations we're going through. So by providing the case studies, and these are real case studies, and there's some complex case studies because some of these people went through some tough stuff. By seeing what they went through, we know what to look for. We know what to expect. And maybe we won't hit the exact same thing, but we'll know that others went through tough times and they survived. And I think that's what it's all about.
Do you have a couple of stories you can share? Obviously, without naming names. Any kind of success stories you have for us?
There was one with a steel factory. They melted steel. The steel was used for body parts, for bones, elbows, knees, that type of steel. So it was all in the pharmaceutical area. And the foundry was in a very rural part of a state that was in. And the general was owned by a major conglomerate. And the general manager for the station got ill, and the foundry and the company itself went through a labor issue. And they lost a lot of good people. They lost upper level people, so they were floundering. And the people who lived there, worked in the area, lived in the area, wanted to keep the business going, but they didn't know what to do. So the one HR person called me and said, "We don't have a lot of money. We need help here, and we need somebody to do something." So I went in, and I worked with them for about 2.5 years. They kept their steel melting going round the clock. So it was 4 different times of the day that I had to be in. And we recreated the whole company. In 2.5 years, I didn't do it. They did it. I gave them the tools. They did it. And that's what was so exciting. By the time we were done, they were making more than double what they had done at their best year earlier in the company. It just tells you when people want to do something, when they're committed, they do it. And they do it.
It reminds me, and I've said this before, I think on the air, when I was 16, now back when you're 16, you only have so much responsibility, but I loved working at the bowling alley. That was my job when I was in high school. And I loved, because I was really into bowling. I loved being around the bowling alley. And I loved it so much that I would look for extra shifts. And one time and the thing is, you'd have to get there at like on a weekend, you'd have to get there at 6 a.m. because you had to clean stuff up. And then, you'd work your 8-hour whatever shift, right? Well, I get called about an hour before my shift ends by the guy who's supposed to take over for me. And he said, "Hey, Edward, I got a date tonight. Can you take over?" I said, "Yeah, no problem." Well, I literally worked from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m., 20 hours. And by the 20th hour, I was a little tired, but you know what? I loved every minute of it because I love the job.
Yeah. This type of job, what you do, you put in the time when you want to put in the time. And when you get something out of it, that sense of accomplishing something, building something, creating something, that's important.
Absolutely. Listen, I thought that I was a very good boss. I would tell my employees, what does 24/7 mean to you? And we'll give you Christmas off, but only if it falls on a Sunday. And I thought they'd be happy with that. But okay, no, I'm
I
kidding. I was a
suspect.
very good boss. But actually, and I mean, like I said, I had this one employee who she's not an employee. She's kind of an associate. We've been together for at least 30 years. And again, it's, she has a lot of autonomy, can do what she needs to do. Tell you what, we're going to cut to our next commercial break here. We're talking baseball as our theme for the trivia questions. What team was the first to retire a jersey? And I'd like to know the team, the number, and the player, if you know all those. All right. You have to go back in time. And but most people at least I'm sure everybody at least knows the player, because if you're retiring a jersey in baseball, you know the player. All right, call 888-912-1190. First caller with the correct answer wins that tanning certificate. Stay with us. The Best of Investing. I'll be right back. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to the Best of Investing one more time. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my special guest, Lucille Maddalena. And our third trivia question: what team was the first to retire a jersey? We're talking baseball here. What was the number on the jersey, and for which player?
Oh,
Lucille, any idea? No, I'm sorry. I'm going to pick a topic that wasn't up to your forte. That's okay. It was the Yankees, and it was Lou Gehrig, and he wore number 4. Yeah, and it's funny because way back, in like Honus Wagner's time, Cy Young, and all those guys, they didn't have numbers on the jerseys, but the commissioner wanted to, they wanted to sell programs, they wanted people to recognize the players, so they made them wear jerseys. The silly thing is that the original numbers on the jerseys were for what batting order you were in. So Babe Ruth was number 3, Lou Gehrig was number 4. The funny thing is that what do you do when you change up the lineup? So anyway, it worked in the very, very beginning, but Lou Gehrig was the first to have his number retired. All right, so Lucille, let me ask you here. You talk a great deal about joy with topics like mindfulness and mental as well as physical illness in a book about leadership. Why?
that was not the intent.
And you mentioned.
Thanks for bringing that up. It really was the intent.
Yeah.
My grandson has osteogenesis imperfecta, which is brittle bone disease. He breaks. And during his first year of life, he was a roly-poly little kid, didn't break. During his second year of life, he had 5 breaks during the year, one of which was the femur, the upper thigh. And because of that, he had to be in a full body cast for 6 weeks. Can you imagine a 2-year-old in a full body cast? It was tough. The thing is, I was writing the book at night and day, but at night I couldn't sleep because I'm worried about him, because I'm just learning about this horrendous disease. But when I'm with him, he brought so much joy. He just cared about living. He just cared. Yes, he was in this cast, but he was still full of, he brought joy, and he made me think about the fact that we need joy on the job, and we need to take care of ourselves.
Awesome.
And we have to keep that going. And I've got some wonderful endorsements for this book. I'm so thrilled. Chip Bell, Marshall Goldsmith, all endorsed it. And those are writers who know their stuff. And they all pointed out the fact that there's joy written in a book for leadership, because out.
That's great. Yeah, I know, it's like the opposite of victim mentality. We're always downtrodden, even when we say you should be joyful rather than that using the word should. It would be kind of nice to just be joyful in all things. I think about that's kind of what the Bible talks about too. Be joyful in all things. Okay, so you're a coach, and in the book you seem to advocate self-coaching. It seems you're working against your business.
Well, have you ever been in a meeting and you spot 1 or 2 people who are really articulate, and they can express themselves and they can lead the meeting, and occasionally they just pull back and sit quietly? You know what they're doing? They're just contemplating, though. That's self-coaching. We all do it, only we don't give it a name. Self-coaching means when you're ready to make a decision, you think about, what did you do well in the past? What do you want now? And how's that going to affect the future? You go through your own history and bring it to life. And if you take the time to do that, and we do, if we do it more consciously, we do it more effectively, you make better decisions. So
Yeah.
make the best decisions possible, then I'll coach you how to get ahead in the business. But still, we all need to make good decisions.
Very good. And what message do you want to leave with our audience, and make sure that you tell people how to get a hold of you if they want to hire you for
Oh,
your
they have to
services?
simply go on the website, mtmcoach.com, or my name, Lucille Maddalena. Either way, you can
Pretty
get there. And I'd love to hear from you. Any type of feedback to this wonderful show, it would be fun to hear.
okay. Any specific message you want to leave with our audience before we cut
Yeah,
to our break?
find joy in your life. It's worth it. You live longer.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's true. And it's interesting that people. I remember my old business associate many years ago. He said, no one ever said on their deathbed, "Gee, I wish I would have spent more time at
Right.
the office." And he's right. Yeah. So it's very joyful myself that my kids are healthy
I
and
agree.
get to come visit me when they can. And I tell you, the one thing really that's good about Zoom is that even if you live across the country, even though you can't really touch them and hug them, at least you can still have some of that connection. I mean, do you remember the old days? I still remember before cell phones. If you had to make a long
I
distance
was thinking
call, I mean, you had to like be really watchful of and then all you could do was just talk. And then for people before that, they sent letters, which were okay, but it's not the same
oh,
as
this is
meeting in
wonderful. Yes,
person.
my book is
You know,
dedicated to family. It really is, because that's what it's about. I have 3 sons. I've been married
That's,
for over 40 years. You need that consistency. You need that support in your life. Isn't that wonderful?
yeah, very very good. All right. Well, Lucille, thank you again. Give out your a website again for people who want to look you up.
MTM, Mary Tyler Moore, Madalena Transitions Management,
Yeah.
mtmcoach.com. I look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Very good. Thanks, Lucille. It was a pleasure having you. You can stay on if you want. I'm going to, when I come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's going on at Scottsdale Mortgage Investments as well as Pacific Private Money. There's some exciting stuff going on there. And it was a real pleasure having you. I feel joyful already just having you
Wonderful.
on the show. You're amazing. It works. And I haven't even read the book yet. All right. Thank you. Audience, stay with us. You're listening to The Best of Investing. We're going to come back with some closing comments. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back to The Best of Investing. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, and with my special guest, Lucille Maddalena of MTM Coach. Didn't have a trivia question. We already asked those on baseball. But I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on at both Scottsdale Mortgage Investments as well as Pacific Private Money. So at Scottsdale Mortgage Investments, you got to check them out. Just Google Scottsdale Mortgage Investments. You'll find them. Sign up for free on their trade desk, and you can buy some discounted mortgages. I've seen them as little as $10,000, and as high as hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it depends on where the house is. Basically, the banks and hedge funds are selling off mortgages at discounts. And so investors can take a look and see what's in the portfolio, what's available to purchase. You don't, if you walk into Bank of America and say, "I'd like to take a look at your portfolio. I'd like to, buy $100,000 worth." They're going to say, "Who are you?" But at Scottsdale, they are big enough that they've purchased loans from hedge funds, banks, etc., and they're siphoning them off. So they're marking them up, obviously, a little bit, and then the individual can buy these mortgages and make probably some pretty good money. But check them out, sign up on their trade desk, and then they'll send you whatever they have available. Scottsdale Mortgage Investments, you just Google them and you'll find them. And then over at Pacific Private Money, they are they have a few different funds. There's the Freedom Fund where they originate notes. A lot of people call them hard money loans, but they're actually a little bit softer. They're soft money loans, and they're paying. They consistently pay monthly. You do have to be an accredited investor. So the definition of that is you have to be worth $1 million exclusive of your home, or you have to make $200,000 a year if you're single, $300,000 if you're married. If you meet any of those requirements, you're, quote, allowed to invest. If you don't meet those requirements, then you can still work with them because you can buy individual deeds of trust, not at a discount because these are going to be originations, but you can get fairly reasonable loan to values, fairly good interest rates. At least 8, 9, 10%. And then if you wanted to even do a second mortgage, you can probably get even higher than that. But you got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. I happen to manage a fund with Pacific Private Money called the Pacific Southwest Fund. It's Pacific Southwest Note Fund. And we buy discounted notes. We've done a lot of work with Scottsdale, and we're paying just a flat 8.5% to the clients. And there's some tax advantages if you qualify. I'd ask your CPA about QBID, QBID, and he'll explain it to you. And it's a very conservative fund. Nobody's ever lost money. I know we've only been around since 2020, but the mortgages are very conservative because if, let's say, a house is worth $1 million, the note that's on the books is on average about $54,000, and we bought the note for, $540,000. We bought the note for $370,000. So the loan to value is only 54%. But our investment to value is only 37%. So it's a very, very conservative fund. I've been in this business for about 40 years now, and I don't think I've ever seen a fund that's this conservative. So, yes, it's very self-serving because I'm the manager of the fund. But you could pretty much ask anybody in the industry if these optics are as conservative as they've seen, and I would be very surprised because we're unlevered. So we don't borrow money to do this. We just buy the loans. Investors, there's no, and they're all first mortgages too. So check out Pacific Private Money. Specifically, the Southwest Fund is the one that I manage, but check out their other funds as well. All right. And if you're ready for our thoughts for the day, here we go. That's everyone seems to be loves this part of the show. All right. So working at a hospital is the worst. You can't call in sick. If you do, your boss will just tell you to come in and get checked out. That doesn't work very well. And instead of saying, have a nice day, I think I'll start saying, have the day you deserve and, let karma sort things out. Right? All right. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away more free prizes for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long.